Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The division of gross time is calculated as follows. Two atoms make one double atom, and three double atoms make one hexatom. This hexatom is visible in the sunshine which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hexatom goes up towards the sky. Purport. The atom is described as an invisible particle, but when six such atoms combine together, they are called a Trasharenu, and this is visible in the sunshine pouring through the holes of a window screen. Translation. The time duration needed for the integration of the three Trasharenu is called a Truti, and 100 Trutis make one Vedha. Three Vedas make one lava. Purport. It is calculated that if a second is divided into 1687.5 parts, each part is the duration of a Truti, which is the time occupied in the integration of 18 atomic particles. Such a combination of atoms into different bodies creates the calculation of material time. The sun is the central point for calculating all different durations. Translation. The duration of time of 3 lavas is equal to 1 nimisha. The combination of 3 nimishas makes 1 kshana, 5 kshanas combined together make 1 kasta, and 15 kastas make 1 laghu. Purport. By calculation, it is found that 1 laghu is equal to 2 minutes. The atomic calculation of time in terms of Vedic wisdom may be converted into present time with this understanding. Translation. 15 laghus make 1 nadika, which is also called a danda. 2 dandas make 1 muhurta, and 6 or 7 dandas make one fourth of a day or night according to human calculation. Translation. The measuring part for 1 nadika or danda can be prepared with a 6 palav weight or 14 ounce pot of copper in which a hole is bored with a gold probe weighing 4 masa and measuring 4 finger long. When the pot is placed on water, the time before the water overflows in the pot is called 1 danda. Purport. It is advised herein that the bore in the copper measuring pot must be made with a probe weighing machine with probe weighing not more than 4 masa and measuring not longer than 4 fingers. This regulates the diameter of the hole. The pot is submerged in the water and the overflowing time is called danda. This is another way of measuring the duration of danda, just as time is measured by sand in a glass. It appears that in the days of Vedic civilization, there was no depth of knowledge in physics, chemistry, or higher mathematics. Measurements were calculated in different ways, as simply as could be done. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So, we are discussing from the 11th chapter of the 3rd canto. The title suggests the calculation of time from the atom. So, a highly technical chapter. So many technical details are given, but in a very precise way, in a very summarized way. That is the reason it may be difficult to understand. So let us understand from the starting of this chapter. So calculation of time from the atom, how time is calculated according to the Vedic, in the Vedic times, how the time used to be calculated. So that is described in the last previous verses, 3rd and 4th. So the time was described as the atoms, when the atoms move to cover a space from one place to another place. So the duration is known as the time. So that was the calculation of how do the Vedic science calculate. But in that also there are so many details, how the units are actually measured. So then the time is measured according to the amount of space covered by the atoms. So it's generally accepted that when time stands still, there is no movement of anything. Even though it's not possible, there cannot be a time when time doesn't exist. Our time is stopped. Only our watch can stop, but not actually the time. So only watch can stop. So time cannot stop. But so this also confirms that movement of atom is time. So time is one of the great energies of Lord Krishna or God. Anyone who accepts the existence of time is accepting the existence of Lord Krishna because he is time. So this is one of the explanation which Srila Prabhupada has given in one of the purports. So time is actually basically it's calculated depending on the atoms. Atom means a particle which the duration which takes from to travel from one point A to point B. So that's known as time. So now further verses described about how actually different units are measured. Actually, what just like in our modern scale, what we know, the smallest of the fraction of the time is known as second. Or we sometimes we say fraction of second, but generally what we know is second, then minutes, then hours, then day, month, year. This is how our calculation goes. But Vedic science is so precise that it goes into such a small unit, like in the purport, one of the purport Prabhupada mentions here, that a second is divided into 1687,687.5 parts. Each part is the duration of 30. 1 second is divided into 1687 times. Like, what is the size of the soul? Keshagra Shatabhagasya. So you take the tip of the hair, divide it into 10,000 parts. That is actually size of the soul. So it's so minute. Similarly, here the Vedic calculation goes to such a small unit, which even second, which is divided into 1687, that's known as 30. So the calculation starts from that. So till now, atoms were described. So in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that atoms means they are actually invisible because their size is so small. They are in a subtle form which cannot be seen actually. So from now, this onwards, fifth onwards, Maitreya Muni start explaining about the visible atoms. Till now, the atoms which were invisible. So now the atoms, when they are clubbed together, so then they start making different forms which are actually can be seen from the human eyes. So in the fifth verse, Prabhupada mentions the division of gross time is calculated as follows. So 2 atoms is actually known as Paramanu. So then 3 Paramanus or 6 atoms is known as 6 atoms put together or combined is known as hexatom. And then this hexatom is visible in the sunshine which enters through the holes of a window screen. So if you have a mesh in the window, so we can see, through that, especially in the morning time when sunrise happens, we can see the particles entering into the room. So that one particle is known as through that one small mesh hole, what sun ray which enters into the room, that is known as exatom. And one can clearly see that exatom goes up towards the sky. Basically, it's coming from the sky. So if you just see the direction, it's actually directly going towards the sky. So this is the first explanation, which one atom, when 2 atoms are combined together, it becomes Paramanu. Then 3 such Paramanus are combined together, it becomes hexatom. So the next it is mentioned that the time duration needed for integration of 3, this hexatom is Sanskrit name is actually Trasharenu. So when time duration needed for integration of 3 Trasharenus. Trasharenu is basically how many atoms? 6 atoms. So 3 such Trasharenus is actually 18 atoms. 3 Trasharenu is called a Truti. It's called Truti. And 100 Trutis made 1 Veda and 3 Vedas make 1 Lava. So someone, further verses also we read, even though it's very, very difficult to even, remember these calculations, numbers, why Srimad Bhagavatam is actually mentioning all these things. So Prabhupada, in one of the purport, Prabhupada mentions that actually what is time. So while explaining this, this actually connects to a room conversation which Srila Prabhupada had with a film producer. So it is in 1977, January. 1977 is a important year, the year which Prabhupada left this world. So January, Prabhupada was in Bhubaneswar. So devotees had brought one, film producer had come from Bombay with his 2-3 friends. So basically he had come to meet Prabhupada to convince him that, he was actually trying to make a movie on Krishna's life teachings of Sri Krishna, the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, especially from the 10th canto. So then he wanted to take Prabhupada's blessings and also, generally when the movie starts, sincere thanks to so many people name is being put. So the credibility of the movie increases if you put some reputed person's name. So maybe that is the one reason why he has come to meet Srila Prabhupada. So that conversation goes on like this. Prabhupada, Jayadeva's that poetry, that Krishna is begging pardon from Radharani, that's also very confidential. Dehi pada pallava. He's directly referred to this one of the Vaishnava song written by Jayadev Goswami. Jayadev Goswami is a 12th century poet. He has written many such confidential pastimes and also songs based on those pastimes. So that film producer was referring to one of that song, Dehi Pada Pallava. In that song, Sri Krishna is begging pardon from Radharani. So there was a description about what actually it is. Then Prabhupada. People misunderstand this Krishna's behavior with Radharani and the gopis as ordinary human hunters. Because woman hunter means he's always behind the woman. So if you directly explain this, people may misunderstand Krishna is a human hunter. So then the guest is saying, no, Prabhupada, you say no, but they take it like that. Even a person like Vivekananda, he said long ago that this Vaishnavism is sex religion. They misunderstand. Just try to understand. This Leela is kept in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto. And middle of 10th canto, 34th or 35th chapter. So one has to understand Krishna first of all. So it's not ordinary, it is not for ordinary men. So we have to discourage these things to be discussed or presented even before the ordinary man. So we cannot just present this as it is in front of the ordinary man. They'll only consider Krishna as one, as a woman hunter. Then guest, that film producer, no, sir, he was taking it in a different angle. He was referring to Vivekananda basically. That Krishna was by these Vaishnavas. Prabhupada, that's all right. That is rasa. We are talking after Rasa Leela, Prabhupada. Rasa, that is not for ordinary persons. It is most confidential. So this has deteriorated. Otherwise, so many gentlemen come here and India, they are asking, what is God? This is the question. Why God was killed? Yesterday this was the question. So then guest. We also came. We were there in that discussion. So Mr. Karana was asking questions. Yesterday evening he was there. Then Prabhupada is countering. So in India, you are born in India, where God comes as Lord Ramachandra, as Lord Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya, and you are asking, what is God? And you are asking, why God was killed? So how much deteriorated you have become? Just imagine. So we were trying to reform all this nonsense business, and how can I associate with you? So Prabhupada was directly attacking him that, when he was trying to tell them, yes, yesterday also we were there. Actually, it's a long conversation, 2-3 days conversation it happened. So he was telling that we were there. Prabhupada is saying, what is the use of you being here actually? You are asking question, who is God? Why God was killed? Being born in India, you don't even have this simple philosophical understanding about God. Then further guest is saying, no, we didn't ask, the guest is saying, no, we don't ask your association, we want your blessing. Because Prabhupada in the this thing, how can I associate with you? So Prabhupada is saying, we don't want association, we just want your blessings. So Prabhupada next, no, it is Krishna Leela in Srimad Bhagavatam. So why don't you begin from the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam? If at all you are interested in making Krishna Leela, start from Bhagavatam, first canto, Janma Dasya Yataha, just so how Krishna is the supreme, how everything is coming from him. Janma Dasya Yataha, Anvaya Ditartas Charteshwa Abhigna Swarat. These things explain by picture, chapter by chapter, by scene. You explain all these things first. There will be real education. Why you jump over the 10th canto immediately? That's my point. Guest, no, we understand. We are depicting Indian men. They are trying to, prove their point. Prabhupada, just like one learns from ABCD, not jumping over MA class. That's my point. Teach people from ABCD. So this is the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Janma Dasya Yataha. What is Krishna? He is the original. Sarvasya Prabhavo. Show that by film how he is Sarvasya Prabhavo. That will be. So guest. So he is always supreme power. Prabhupada, that's all right. You are going to produce some film. Begin from the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Why you jump over to the 10th canto? That is kept very confidential unless one understands. By understanding 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, he has no entrance. Just like you cannot enter into the law college unless you are a graduate. So Shukadeva Goswami has arranged in such a way that one should understand what is Krishna by reading these 9 cantos. Then one can come to the 10th canto. So even in the 10th canto, Krishna's confidential pastimes are not just described like that. It is kept somewhere in the middle, just like Prabhupada mentioned, 34 or 35th chapter. So why this Bhagavatam, the description, very highly technical, very typical descriptions, we are sitting and we are discussing actually, the most precious hour actually. Why? Because if really one has to understand Krishna, one has to understand how if one has to know Krishna as a supreme, why he is supreme, how he is supreme. So for that one has to understand, starting from our own this thing, we cannot understand something which is beyond our perception. What we can understand is something which is around us. What is around us? So much of matter is there, so much of molecules, sunshine, all these things are there. So through Srimad Bhagavatam, the Maitreya Muni or the sages, they are teaching, especially Veda Vyasa is teaching us that how great is Lord Shri Krishna. Just like for living entities like us, those who are rebelled against Lord Krishna, those who wanted to enjoy independent of Lord Krishna, he has undergone, he has made such a super complicated structure known as material world just to facilitate our fancy desires. That's how this Truti, Kshana, Muhurta, Lava, all these things, when we understand, so minute it is. It is not just, people say spirituality means, oh, it's a, some kind of a, people, those who are very sentimental. It is not just sentimental. Lot of science is there behind this actually. Even small material creation. What is material creation? It's an insignificant portion of the vast spiritual sky. The spiritual sky, this entire material world is there in some corner. Entire Mahatattva is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as a small black cloud in the vast spiritual sky. So that itself is so complicated. Just imagine what about the spiritual world then. But why Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't explain all these things in detail? If that has to be explained, then you read all the Vedas, all Upanishads, all Puranas. Then we can understand and comprehensive understanding about what is Krishna. But Srimad Bhagavatam is actually directly explaining Krishna, but in between there are some glimpses about how Krishna is supreme. So the devotees also don't accept Krishna, sentimentally. There has to be a philosophical basis. Why Krishna is supreme? He is supreme because he has created a universe which no one else can even imagine. Like Prabhupada gives an example. People are making aeroplanes. So that aeroplane cannot run without the fuel. And there are so many complications in that. But whereas the Lord has made a mosquito. Principle is same. Both are flying. And mosquito is flying without any fuel. This is the greatness of God. So people say, these days, in one of the previous classes we discussed about, modern inventions. Like Chat GPT or any such equipments as such. The science has advanced so much. They can predict what will be the weather. Say today is March 3rd. So March 3rd, 2024, March 3rd, 2025. They can predict. And especially the next month or next week, to the most accurate they can predict. It is going to be sunny, it's going to be winter, it's going to rain. So this shows that yes, science has also advanced, but this is not something new. These are all actually coming from that supreme. Janma dasya yata, everything is coming from that supreme. So that's what Srimad Bhagavatam, these chapters are explaining, that how Krishna is great. How much intelligence has gone behind the creation of this material world just to fulfill the desires of jivas like us. So then when one comes to 10th canto, then he can relish Krishna's pastimes. Even when we were in school or colleges, we used to get influenced by the teachers those who teach us actually. So I had one school teacher who was teaching English. So then looks like he was some anti-Hindu mentality person. So always used to tell, God means all nonsense, nothing is there. Religion, Bhagavad Gita, all these things, people simply bluff. Basically used to tell in such a way that, we also almost believed that. Used to tell that, people are there. So people should not do wrong things. So because to make them afraid or to refrain them from doing wrong things, some people have sat in one place and they have written some literatures. So in that literature they have mentioned, if you do wrong things, you will be punished like this. If you do this sinful activity, you will have a so and so punishment. So just to make people refrain from doing sinful activities, these literatures are created. Actually, nothing exists. So this is how people actually conclude. But whereas from the Vedic literatures, from the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, especially we also all came to know about what is Krishna, who is Krishna, when we actually came in touch with Srila Prabhupada and his books. Otherwise, we also had very, very thin understanding, very, loose understanding. Krishna is one of the God. Who is supreme, we don't know. Rama, Ganesha, Durga, everyone are equal. But when we read Srila Prabhupada books, especially Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, then we understood who is supreme actually. So that's what Prabhupada is stressing in this point to that film director, the film producer, that you show comprehensive understanding about Krishna. Otherwise, if you just show the only pastimes, people, even though some people they will appreciate, some people they will take Krishna as a woman hunter. Okay, some people, pious people, they appreciate, but still they will not understand Krishna in Tattvataha as an absolute truth. Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead and Krishna as the absolute truth has a difference. What is the difference? Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, yes, but Krishna as absolute truth, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, then not only these three, then the Lord with his energies, internal energy, external energy, the marginal energies, jivas, the Lord with expansions. All these things put together is known as absolute truth. So to understand that Krishna as an absolute truth in Tattvataha, then we have to understand all these things. So in another place, when Madhu Pandit Prabhu has given this lecture on this chapter actually, very old lectures. So when explaining all these very scientific and complicated divisions and expansions, so Madhu Pandit Prabhu says, actually why Bhagavatam is describing all these things? It is so confusing in one sense. Because Sanskrit terms, of course, we are not so familiar. That's why it is seeming like a confusing for us. Otherwise, it is actually absolute literature only. We don't know about that subject matter. Then why Bhagavatam actually is explaining why something which is relevant to us could not have been explained here. So Madhu Pandit Prabhu says that by reading this chapter, calculation of time from atom, if a devotee becomes thoroughly confused, the purpose of Bhagavatam is served. After reading this chapter, if you become thoroughly confused, then purpose of Bhagavatam is fulfilled. Why? Madhu Pandit Prabhu explains, why is this? Because after reading this, we will understand how insignificant we are. Our knowledge is so limited. Even the material word, simple, 1 second, has so much of diversity to understand. So much of information is there with 1 second. So that itself to understand is like we'll start cracking our heads. What is this actually? So Bhagavatam is actually teaching that how insignificant we are, how our knowledge is so limited. And Bhagavatam, our Vedic literature, our supreme Sri Krishna is vast, infinity. So infinity, I think, until we came to the class of 8th or 9th, we didn't know what is infinity actually. So 0 divided by 1 or 1 divided by 0, what it is. So till 10th class, they used to say, no, it doesn't exist as such. Then after the 10th only, there is something known as infinity. So then further, when we studied, then infinity also, what is infinity actually? So we can understand from these things that how Krishna is actually so vast, understanding the Vedic literatures, the glories of Supreme Lord, and how tiny we are. So in the next verses, the duration of time of 3 lavas, so all these explanations, in fact, in one of the later purports, Prabhupada summarizes that all these things. Because every day one verse, if we read also, we will not be able to even catch up with what we had read yesterday. So Prabhupada in one purport completely summarizes. We'll little come to that later. So then the time factor is known as eternal. So there are 5 principal factors which are explained in Bhagavad Gita. What are those? Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma, Purusha or Daiva. The Purusha, the performer, Karta. So in all these things except karma, all rest of the 4 factors are eternal. So that's what Bhagavad Gita explains. They are eternal. Only Kala is temporary. Sorry, Karma is temporary. So then this factor Prabhupada explains. So in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 11th chapter, yes, 32nd verse, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravruddho, lokan samahartum hiya pravruttha, ritepi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve, ye vashishta pratyanikeshu yodaha. The blessed Lord said, time I am. Krishna is saying, I am the time. Time I am, destroyer of the worlds, and have come to engage all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both the sides will be slain. So here Krishna is saying that I am the time which destroys everything. Basically, what is the function of time in the material world? So function of time in this material world, it deteriorates everything, it destroys everything. Just like when we are born, 100 years lifetime. So we celebrate first birthday, second birthday, third birthday. Actually, we are celebrating birthday, but actually, in true sense, what it is actually? My lifetime became short by 1 year. My lifetime became short by 2 years, 3 years. So time factor is actually destroying. But whereas time factor is opposite in spiritual world. What it is? It's ever increasing. Anandhambudi Vardhanam. Time factor there just facilitates. There is no kshaya or destruction in the spiritual world. So there, according to the devotee's desires, time facilitates. That's what in Brahma Samhita, Nimesha Ardakyo Vavrajati Nahi Yattarapi Samayaha. Not even half Nimesha Arda. Half a moment does not pass without serving Lord Shri Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. So that time, so Krishna is saying, I am that time. Then in the another verse in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva budantema buddha bhava samanvitaha. Buddha bhava, those who are intelligent. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. So I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from He. So who can understand this knowledge? Who can understand this statement? Buddha bhava samanvitaha. Those who are really intelligent. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all in their hearts. So when Krishna is saying, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds, so he cannot be a person who has an end, who has a beginning and an end. He has to be an eternal person. Otherwise, he cannot say, I am the source of everything. So when he is an eternal person, and in the 11th chapter, Krishna says, Kalos me, I am the time factor. The time is his function. So time also cannot be a temporary function. Time also has to be eternal because it's a one of the energy of Lord Shri Krishna. So that's how Prabhupada connects this, that time factor, because it is energy of Lord Shri Krishna, time is also eternal. But only thing, the function of the time in the material world and in the spiritual world, it differs. Here in this material world, it destroys everything, whereas in spiritual world, it facilitates the devotees in serving Lord Shri Krishna. There it is actually ever increasing, unlike which is the destroying in this material world. So in the next this thing, so Krishna says that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead and I am the time. So in this, one of the purports, as I mentioned, Prabhupada actually summarizes that that what are the atoms, exatom, truti, all these things in one cycle, so that devotees can understand in a little comprehensive way. So Prabhupada mentions, in summary, when 30,375 atoms move, 1 second has passed. How this calculation has come? 30,375. Seventh verse of the today's chapter. The duration of time is 3 lavas equal to 1 nimisha. 1 nimisha, the combination of 3 nimishas makes 1 kshana, and 5 kshanas combined together makes 1 kasta. So there in the Purport Prabhupada mentions that by calculation it is found that 1 lagu is equal to 2 minutes. So 2 minutes means 120 seconds actually. So lagu divided by 120. So that calculation comes to 30,375 atoms. 1 atom, 2 atoms paramanu, then 6 atoms is hexatom, then 18 atoms is, what is that? 18 atoms put together is known as truti. Then truti, 100 truti is Veda. So like this. So then let us come to that without getting too much into technical these things. We'll come to that cycle directly. So 1 second has passed. This very high level scientific knowledge is another proof that Vedic knowledge comes from God. So Lord Krishna is the true God. Because he is the compiler of the Vedic knowledge, all the Vedic knowledge was given by Lord Krishna to the first living being on the universe, Brahma, at creation. This was 155.522 trillion years ago. Trillion year means billion. Billion means how much is 1 billion? 1 million is 10 lakhs. 1 billion is 100 crores. Trillion is, I think it is 1000 crores. 100 crores into 1000 is trillion. So here it is mentioned that when actually there Prabhupada is mentioning when was Brahma was born, 155.522 trillion years ago. So calculators also will fail to calculate this calculation. So there Prabhupada mentions that there Prabhupada summarizes one Trasharenu is actually 6 atoms. So according to the human time measurement, it is 8 divided by 40,500 second or 1687.5 parts of a second is known as 1 Trasharenu. Then 130 is 18 atoms, that is 3 hexagons, 18 atoms. It is 8 divided by 13,500 second. Then 1 Veda is 100 Tutis, that is 1800 atoms, that is 8 divided by 135 second. Then Lava is something which is very connected to us. ये कभी सुना लगता है, दूसरा वर्ड तो कभी सुना ही नहीं हमने. Lava, because lava matra sadhu sangha. So that we have heard a lot from the starting day of our Krishna consciousness. So 1 lava is equal to 3 Vedas, that is 5400 atoms, that is 8 divided by 45 seconds. If you divide 1 second, multiply 1 second by 8 and divided by 45 is actually known as 1 lava. It comes to actually 0.12 seconds. This is known as lava. Lava matra sadhu sangha. The sadhu sangha, the association of devotees, is so powerful. 0.12 second of association is more than enough for sarva siddhi hoy, to attain all the perfections. That is the potency power of sadhu sangha. Then 1 nimisha is 3 lavas, that is 8 divided by 15 second. Then 1 kashta is 5 kshanas, that is like how it was mentioned 48,000 this thing that has come here. That 1 kshana is 3 nimishas, that is 48,600 second. Then now from here at least we can understand that it comes to that. 1 kashta is 5 kshanas, that is 2,43 atoms, that is 8 seconds. Something which we can easily remember and understand. 8 seconds is actually 1 kashta. Then 1 lagu is 2 minutes. 1 danda is 30 minutes. Then 1 prahara is 3 hours. In one of the previous class, Sampadi Prabhu had very elaborately explained this prahara, all these things, how praharas are calculated. So there are different praharas in a day. Then one day there are 4 praharas. One day means 12 hours actually. When we say Brahma's day, it's not actually full day. Whenever it comes to the calculation of Bhagavatam, it is just a 12 hours. Then Prabhupada further explains that this similar number of years Brahma lives in the night time. So the 12 hours is actually 4 praharas. 1 prahara is 3 hours. So 4 multiplied by 3 is 12 hours. That is 1 day. Then 1 night is another 4 praharas. So this together is known as 1 full day. 1 full day. So in 1 full day, how many praharas are there then? 8 praharas. 8 multiplied by 3 is equal to 24. This is how Prabhupada, a comprehensive cycle Prabhupada, this thing gives in one of the purports in the, I think, 15th or 16th verse of this chapter, Prabhupada gives actually. So basically, Srimad Bhagavatam is giving such a comprehensive understanding about the time factor. So then in one of the morning walk conversations, one devotee directly asked about this chapter, especially this chapter, calculation of time from atom. So it is in Los Angeles, 1973. So Swarup Damodar Maharaj is asking, yesterday Rupanuga Maharaj was telling me that about the calculation of time through the atom. Prabhupada, Rupanuga. Calculation of time from atom. Srila Prabhupada, he is talking about Bhagavatam. By the light passing over the atom, you can calculate the time. So the sunlight passing over the atomic particles. Prabhupada. So, what? Swarup Damodar. How it is done? Is actually clarifying with Srila Prabhupada how it is done. Prabhupada, I have already written that. You can mention Srimad Bhagavatam. Rupanuga. Yes, you have written Bhagavatam. Prabhupada. What is that? What is there? What I have written? So Rupanuga, third canto, how the sunlight, you can tell him, you can tell time. Through the sunlight, you can tell time. That atom is a subtle form of time. That you can tell this as light passes over the surface of an atom. And the experiment is that you look for atoms in a screen. When the sun comes through the screen, you can see in the sunlight hexatom or 6 atoms with your naked eye. That experiment is given in Bhagavatam. It is very wonderful. Vedic science. We should present that as real, actual science, real atomic science. So then Prabhupada. No, Bhagavatam, there is a regular calculation. What is the distance from one planet to another? Everything is there. Swarup Damodar. The calculation is given. Prabhupada. Yes, every planet is described. What is the constitution? What are the forms of the living entities there? Everything is there. Bhagavat never says that these all other planets are vacant. Only this planet is full of living entity. Bhagavat is not so rascal. These rascals may say their theory is that all other planets they are vacant. Only this planet is filled with. This rascal theory is not Bhagavata. We see that there is living entity in the water. There is living entity within the sand. How you can say there is no living entity in other planets? Rupanuga, they say that life as we know it here doesn't exist, human life. No, how you can say so? The condition is same. Every planet is made of earth, water, fire and five elements. So if under this condition there are living entities in this planet, why not in that condition living entities in other planets? That is their ignorance, that is their bluff. So the different condition of the planet is that some planet is fiery, some planet is gaseous, some planet is watery. That may be, but after all, they are made of these 5 elements, and each element we find there is living entity. So it may be mixture or pure, that must be living entities. Then further they ask one question about sun movement. Oh yes, there are also living entities. They are then Rupanuga on the sun planet. What about sun planet? Prabhupada. Oh yes, there are also living entities. They are very glowing, fiery. Therefore, the whole sun planet is glowing. Prabhupada is bringing out a different concept here. They are very glowing, living entities. Fiery. Therefore, the whole sun planet is glowing. Rupanuga. By their bodily light? Prabhupada. Yes. Here is only one sun planet. And in the Vaikuntha, all the planets are like sun. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Natad bhasheto suryo na shashanka na pavakaha. There is no necessity of electricity or moonlight or sunlight. Here it is necessity because here only glowing planet is the sun. So that glowing is because of living entities and living spark. That because of that spark light is coming, that's why sun is emanating light. But whereas in the Vaikuntha planets, there are only living sparks. That means the pure spirit soul. So they are self-illuminating. So that's why the spiritual world are in Vaikuntha planets, you don't need any sun or moon. Here it is necessity because here only glowing planet is the sun. But in the Vaikuntha, each and every planet is glowing. Therefore, there is no need of sun. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Natat bhashete surya. So then Prajapati, because very interesting subject matter, no? He's asking another question. Spirit soul, it's also luminous like that? Does it illuminate light? Prabhupada, yes. Is luminous. How it is keeping your body warm? As soon as it goes away, immediately cold. immediately cold, finished, all temperature finished. These are the evidences. That means, a spirit soul is luminous. It emanates light and heat, temperature. So the moment the soul leaves the body, that's how the body becomes cold. How a person a doctor identifies a patient is dead or not, first he touches the body. When he feels that the body is cold, then they will check some pulse and all, then they said declare that he has gone. This body is finished. Then further, Rupanuga is asking, it is said that soul glows with a light brighter than 1,000 suns in the Vedas. Is it true? Prabhupada, I do not remember. Maybe. But fact is that the soul is more valuable than the sun, because the sun is after all a matter and the soul is spirit. Therefore, the vast difference of value. You cannot revive the life of a dead body by thousands of suns' heat. It is not possible. It can burn, but it cannot. But it cannot give life. So spirit is so powerful than the sun. Prabhupada is saying even thousands of suns cannot bring back the life, cannot bring back the heat in the body. Only that insignificant spark can bring back the temperature or the life to the body. So these are different principles, how minute things Prabhupada explains, that especially morning walk conversations are such enlightening and insightful conversations it used to be, where Prabhupada would explain about different principles to the disciples and make them understand. So this is how in this chapter till now the time function is described. So further verses also, how further divisions, how entire universal structure with respect to the time is explained, all those things are explained. So I'll stop here. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari.